Securing .NET API with Amazon Cognito and implementing authentication. Hello everyone, my name is Ankush Jain and this is the fifth video of this series. If you have not watched the earlier videos of this series, then please do watch. I have provided all the links in the description below. So in this particular video, we are going to learn how we can create an ASP.NET Core API and run that API inside Lambda function. That API will be secured with Amazon Cognito. We will create an API gateway. We will also create an Cognito Authorizer. We will attach that Cognito Authorizer with API gateway, and our API will be very secure. So without any further delay, let's get started. So this is a page, and we are going to follow all the steps that I have provided in this page. So let's start with the first step. So review the architecture here. So just click on this link, and here's the architecture. So we have already created this API which was anonymous in one of our previous video. Now we are going to create this API which is ASP.NET Core API in Lambda function, and the route would be something like this: ASP.NET authentication example. And what would how it is different from the previous one, there were no authentication, but this API will have the authentication. So if some client like mobile device try to access the API via API gateway, then he or she will not be able to access until or unless they provide a valid Cognito token, which is basically obtained through the Amazon Cognito user pool that we created in previous step. So that is something we are going to cover in this video. And yeah, so we have reviewed the architecture. Now what is the second point? Understand what we are going to build in this video. So as I said, we are going to create this ASP.NET Core API. We are going to deploy this on Lambda function, and we will also implement the security, cognitive security within the application. And then we will create a route in Amazon API gateway. We will create a Cognito authorizer, and then we'll connect with that Cognito authorizer to the API gateway route. And yeah, that's on a high level we are going to do in this video. Third thing, refer this and start building. Okay, so now we just need to start building the API and configure that API to uh, with Cognito security. So we just need to click on this link and follow the readme file. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Okay, let it remain open. So this is the second example of this folder, ASP.NET Core APIs, which is authentication example. And we are going to follow just the instructions. So steps to follow: first, create an ASP.NET Core API. So I will open the Visual Studio. This is this is our previous API. So what I will do, I will just create a folder and new solution folder. I'll do ASP.NET, and so I will move this inside this. Now I will create another new project, ASP.NET Core Web API. I will provide this name, ASP.NET authentication example, and this is the same location. So yeah, good. We are going with .NET 6, authentication type none, configure for HTTPS, and use controller. So this will basically create another project, API gateway, sorry, ASP.NET Core API, and I will select this as startup. However, I would not need it. I will just close these other files. Okay, now the second thing, I will need to install this hosting package. So if you have not watched my video where I have created this anonymous example API, so where there I have explained why we need this package to configure this API as a Lambda function. So you should watch that video because I have explained the internals of Lambda there. So we have installed this NuGet package, and after that we just need to call this method. So I will just copy this method. I will go in program.cs, and here after add controllers before builder.build, I will just copy this. Now we also need to install this NuGet package. Reason being, we also want to implement security on application side. Okay, let me first install this and then talk. So, okay, it is installing. Accept. Close this. Oh, sorry, it will not work with .NET 6, so I will just have to use the latest 6.0 version of this, because we are using .NET 6 and that NuGet package was referring to .NET 7. So yeah, we have installed it. Okay, so now why we need it? Because we what we are going to do, we are going to configure security at application level as well. So you may ask, like, we will be securing we will be applying the security here using Cognito Authorizer. Then why we are using that JWT token here? So there are two reasons, and that I will cover why we need to implement the security at the application layer as well. So even I mean. Okay, we will discuss once we reach there. So now we have installed that NuGet package. Now just copy this section and in your app settings.json. So I will just clone, copy and paste. Okay, so this is allowed origin. This is required for course, but as of now you don't need it. Okay, now add the following code in the web application builder. Uh, After web application builder, so just copy this part, or yeah, just copy this part and go to your program.cs, and after on the top just copy this. So what we are doing, we are basically reading the values from configuration that we just copied. So allowed origin, app client id, user pool, aws region, and then we are constructing some variables like valid issuer and valid audience. So audience will basically represent the client id that we created in Amazon Cognito user pool, and valid issuer is something which would be kind of our identity server url, which would basically issue the jwt token. So we have to validate the token in our application as well. So now move uh, on the seventh step, just follow the copy the following code. So we'll just copy this. This is the course section, and where we need to copy builder.services. So we just need to copy this here because we are creating our services here. So this would configure the course and allowed domain. So if you are creating a web application which we're using Angular or any JavaScript framework which would have some URL, that application needs you have to provide that URL here in fsettings.json and a comma separated values to allow the course related issue, to prevent your application from course related issue. So that things you can do here, and we are allowing all methods and all the headers. Next we are doing this thing, and which is very important. Okay, this is very important. So we have installed already a jwt token, jwt NuGet package. And so what we are doing here, we are basically configuring the authentication. As you can see, add authentication, and here we have provided the scheme, what scheme we should be used to validate the incoming request, and that is something jwt bearer defaults. Now since we have added this scheme, we also have to add another method here, uh, add JWT bearer. So if I would have added a cookie authentication default, then I would have to add cookie. So but yeah, since we are not using with dealing with cookie, because this is a web API, we are dealing with JWT token. That's why we need to uh, provide some method here so that we can validate the incoming JWT token. So now here a few things to notice which are very important. Once the request will come to this web API will check the authority, will need the authority. Here we have provided the valid issuer, which is basically the Cognito, then Cognito region, then Cognito user pool ID. So it will be like it will go to this URL, will use this URL, will download the public key, and will validate the signature of the incoming JWT token. So that's why this is needed. And here token validation parameter. So if the signature is valid, then what it will do, it will also check the client ID, uh, and which is the valid audience. So how it will validate the client ID? It will use that value from here, Cognito app client ID, which it will use that value and will check whether the incoming token is having the same client ID or not. So that's why it is very important to understand. Now you might be asking like why we need to do it here, because we will be applying security at uh, API gateway level. So if the request will is not authorized, that will not even reach here. So why do we need to implement the security here? So there are two reasons, and I have highlighted those reasons here. So first is to get user info, because if we would not do this, then because one more thing we need to do at later. So one more thing we need to do, we just need to, okay, I will come here. We will need to add these two things as well. So let's add them as well. So just provide this and these things. Use authorization. So just remove this. And so what it will do, uh, once the request arrives from here to here, we need to identify the user. Who is the user? Because this .NET Lambda function, ASP.NET Core API doesn't know who is the user, and uh, because we have added this use authentication middleware, so this is responsible for constructing the authentication ticket. So it will read the bearer token value and will create an identity, and that identity will be, we with that identity we will be knowing who is the current user, who is actually accessing this website or this application. And second thing is the client ID. Okay, so the Cognito authorizer here doesn't validate what is the client ID. For example, you created a Cognito user pool and you created multiple app clients there. Now this Cognito authorizer that we are going to create in a couple of minutes, so that will not check what is the client ID. It will just check whether the token is a valid uh, Cognito user pool token, that that token belongs to this user pool. But it doesn't check whether that token belongs to the client ID, is whether that token belongs to a specific client ID. And for that reason we are using this, because here we have specified to validate the audience as well. So that is an additional layer of security that we are implementing. So that's why we have configured the security in this application level as well. And another benefit of doing this is, once you want to move away from Lambda, then also these things will be required if you are running this application on EC2 or Elastic Beanstalk or ECS Fargate or containers anywhere. So you don't have to make the changes at later point of time, because uh, these are the same changes that you need to make if you are running this API anywhere else. Okay, so now we are done with all the changes, I guess, here. So now next thing, create a profile controller. So we will go here and in we will just replace this with profile controller. Okay, I just want to rename it, and then I will copy this code. So we'll just copy this code. So what we are doing, we have just applied authorized attribute. So only the authenticated request will be able to access this endpoint. And what we are doing, we are basically returning the claims that we are getting in Cognito token. And how this user will be set, because we have configured the use authentication and we have configured this, so that use authentication will middleware will basically create the user object, and this settings will basically validate the token. So if the token is invalid, then it will be returned, it will not even enter to the controller level. So we have done both the things. So now we have created this controller, and I think we are all good. We just need to update this application uh, CS approach file. So we'll just add this line so that we can deploy this application to AWS Lambda. Okay, now because I just added it because we will get this published to AWS Lambda option here, otherwise we won't get this option. So now what we need to do next, we need to create a Lambda function and deploy this API. So now what I will do, I will go here, click on Lambda function, and I will just copy the name from here. Okay, I will go, I will create a Lambda function, provide this name, .NET C Sharp, x64, change execution role, use an existing role. I mean, if you have watched my previous video, then you will find what I'm doing here, because in previous video I have created this role, service serverless.NET API. So I'm using the same role. And one more thing, yeah, that's all. Create function. So we have created the function. Okay, so now we have created the function. We need to deploy this. So what we are going to do, we will just right click on this and click on publish to AWS Lambda. Now you might be asking, like, we have not updated this app settings.json. So we are not going to update this app settings.json because we are going to provide the configuration in environment variables of Lambda function. So if you are running this application on local, then you can provide these values. But if you are deploying this on Lambda function, then you can use environment variables. So we will be providing environment variables and leaving this as blank. So I will just click on mm, publish to AWS Lambda, and will provide will select the function. We'll select the function authentication, and the handler name would be the assembly name in this case, because we are using top level statements. uh, okay, now moving to the next. Okay, let's see what is the next step. Create Cognito Authorizer. Okay, so now, okay, so here we need to create some environment variable, and let me pause the video and update these environment variables. Okay, so I just, went to this CDK stack and to see what environment variables I need to update. So that is kind of, we have to replace columns with these. So I'm just, using this. I will add, I will provide this, then second thing this, then third thing this, and finally AWS region. So if you are deploying this solution with AWS CDK, then you don't need to provide these things manually. Allowed origin is not required, so I'm leaving this blank. Client ID is something that I will go here, will go incognito, open this Cognito in a new tab, and we'll copy this from uh, app integration. App integration, scroll down. Yeah, this is the client ID, and I will provide, yeah, client ID here, user pool ID, and I will also update the client ID in this tool at the same time, so that we can test it. Client ID here as well, and client ID I will also update client secret. So I will show client secret, I will update the client secret as well here. Now I need to, okay, what we need there, user pool ID. Okay, user pool ID is this is the user pool ID, and do we need to use user pool ID here as well? I don't think we need user pool ID here. Okay, now finally the region is US East 1. So we'll just provide this region, US East 1. Okay, so we have provided all these things, and we'll just go here and click on upload button. So our API will be deployed on the Lambda function, and once this is deployed, we can verify from the AWS console as well. So I'm just coming on the AWS Lambda screen. So yeah, we have two functions and the deployment is in progress. It is shipping. Okay, now deployment is done. We will just verify. Okay, it is 6 seconds ago. I will just go here and will show you one thing: configuration, environment variables. So you can see all the environment variables that we have updated are present here except allowed origin. I don't know why it didn't come, because we have left it blank. But yeah, anyway, that should not create an issue. So now what we are going to do, we are going to create a Cognito Authorizer. So we will go here in API Gateway and okay, yeah, we'll select this API. We'll select this API and we will basically just go here in Authorizer and we'll click on Create Authorizer. Here there are two options of authorizer type. I will select Cognito, or I will just provide this Cognito Authorizer. Yeah, that's all. And I will just select the user pool, and in token source I will provide the header name, authorization header, which will be basically containing the token, and I will just click on create authorizer. Now this authorizer is created. So next step is create Cognito authorizer is done. Create API gateway route and connect it with Lambda. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a route, anonymous example. Now we are going to select this because we want to create a route here. We create a route, anonymous example. Now what is the name? I will go here, scroll down, API gateway route, authentication example. I will go here, put this name, create. So now authentication example is here inside ASP.NET. Now I will just click and create a proxy resource. If you are not aware about what is proxy resource, please do watch the first video where I have deployed anonymous API. So I will just click on this, create proxy resource. Now after proxy resource, we will just we will create a method, I guess. Yeah, method. Here no, not method. Yeah, I guess I'm forgetting something. Uh, yeah, so I think we should create a method. So we have created a proxy integration. This is inside this. Yeah. So now we should create a method. Just select any and select Lambda proxy, and here select the Lambda function. So we have to select the authentication one and just click on create method. Okay, so it will basically create an integration, and you can see the proxy integration has been done, and the backend is your Lambda function. Okay, so now I think you are good. And yeah, one more thing. So we have not attached the Cognito authorizer that we created. So what we will do, we'll okay. So uh, uh, see, just you need to select method request. Here you will find option authorization. Just edit it. Inside authorization, you will see Cognito user pool authorizer. Here our Cognito authorizer is coming. So I will just save this, and you can see now it this particular endpoint is secured with Cognito authorizer. So here we don't have any authorization, but here we have a Cognito authorizer. Now I am going to do is just deploy this API on a stage that we have created earlier, and just click on dev. Okay, so this has been deployed and hopefully everything is good. Now we should be able to test it. So let's see what is the next step. Okay, so obtain the Cognito token from ThunderClient and inspect it at jwt.io. So now we are done. We have created the API, we have deployed it to Lambda function, we created Cognito authorizer, we created routes, we configured we integrated the Cognito authorizer in the route. Now what we are going to do, we are just going to go in ThunderClient and we'll go in authentication. We have configured the authentication URL here, and everything is up to date in environments. So we'll just select this, and in authentication you can find this ThunderClient collection and environment scripts in the code in the GitHub repo. So just install these things from there. Okay, so just click on authentication example. Here I have provided all the information in auth section. These things are coming from variable. So client secret is not here. Yeah, we have updated. So I will click on generate token, and it will open a new page. There is some error, and what error is? Error invalid request. So let me see whether we have configured the client secret here as well or not. Okay, give me a minute. Let me troubleshoot this, and then I will come back. So I think the reason that I found because Cognito domain URL is incorrect. That was something that I was using. Now I have to go here in sign in, and from where? From sign up or sign in or app integration? Yeah, from app integration I need to copy this domain and provide this here. Save it, collection, go in authentication example, click on generate token, open. Yeah, it is working fine. So now I have created an user in my previous video, so I will use that same user. I will just type the password. Okay, uh, and it will ask me to change the password, so I will enter another new password. And yeah, I have entered new password. I will click on send. This is the hosted UI. I have been redirected to this. Now the token has been updated, I guess. Here, oh, it is not updated. It should be updated. Let me close this. Okay, close this as well. Okay, not updated. It happens sometimes. It is intermittent issue. Let me try it again. It is, I have, since I have already authenticated myself, so it just bring me here, and now it is the access token is here. So we'll just go here and open the jwt.io. So quickly inspect this token. I will just paste this token here, and you can see email is verified. This is the issuer that we were using. I had told you that in code we are validating the issuer. So this is the same URL, Cognito IDP Amazon AWS, Cognito IDP Amazon AWS. Okay, now this is the audience. This is the client ID, I guess. Okay, yeah, 518. This is being validated, and email. So yeah, all these information are present in Cognito token, and I think group should also be present. Yeah, group admin information, I mean admin group, so that is also present. So now next thing is what we are going to do. We are going to just send a request on this profile controller that we created. So I will just click on send, and we'll see if it works or not. So yeah, it worked, and we get 200 okay response. We are getting key value pair of claims, which because that token is basically read by or passed by this ASP.NET Core middlewares and services, and that creates a user, and all these key value things which are basically claims, so they are converted into these .NET objects, and I'm just selecting their type and value. And here you see the response in the Cognito groups admin email verified to all the things that you are seeing in the JWT token. You can see here as well. So this is how you can create an API. I mean, we have successfully secured our .NET APIs, and we are running it serverless on AWS Lambda function. And yeah, I think that's all. That's the pretty much we wanted to cover in this video. Now we have done this. Now, okay, one more thing I just wanted to test that I have not tested earlier is if because we have configured this API to basically it should be uh, we have configured the security at application level as well. So I think let's give it a try. Just remove the Cognito Authorizer from here and send a request without any token. So what should happen? It should work. However, what will happen basically, the request will okay, I don't have, okay, request will go from here to here, and the validation will happen here, and the Lambda function will be executed. But ideally, if we keep the Cognito Authorizer, then request will not even reach here. So that's okay. Just verify that. So what I will do, I will just go here in method request. I will go and I will remove this Cognito Authorizer to none, and then I will redeploy this. So I will deploy API, select the stage dev, deployed, and I just remove this. So let's see. Yeah, unauthorized. If I just pass this, yeah, it is working. So this is something happening from yeah, it is fine. If I just modify this token, yeah, unauthorized. That's what I was expecting, and that's happening. So yeah, um, we we are good, and we have validated our learning. So just before going, just again attach the authorizer, authorizer here, Cognito Authorizer, save, and deploy the API. Okay. So now I think we have covered everything, and I hope you have liked this video, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching this.